How's it going, everyone? It is Friday, March 20th at 4 p.m. Happy spring break, but more importantly, it's time for the weather report here on KMNR 89.7 FM, broadcasting out of Rolla, Missouri. This is the weather report. This is the news and commentary show covering what's going on here in Rolla. And another very special episode for you. First, of course, the views expressed in this program are not those of KMNR, the University of Missouri System, or the University of Missouri Board of Curators. Now, with that out of the way, we will dive right in. We are at the epic conclusion of our series of interviews with local candidates. The April 7th municipal elections are coming up faster than you think. And so we've had city council candidates on, we've had mayoral candidates on, and now today, at the conclusion, we are talking with the second mayoral candidate, technically first on the ballot, Kevin Greven. Kevin, welcome. Thank you for coming on the show. If you folks have questions you'd like to ask the candidate, please text into 504-656-6735. That's 5046-KMNRDJ, and we might just ask them. So Kevin, why don't you start off telling us a little bit about yourself?
First of all, thanks for allowing me to be here. This is kind of cool. I'd never been in the studio before, and it's I love it. I love the layout. I love what's going on here. The second thing is you start off as the weather report, so I'm sitting here thinking, okay, we're going to talk about weather. My
KMNR, we have a DJ name, and so I'm MC Stratus.
Gotcha.
And so all my show names have been cloud themed.
I like it. So again, thanks for having me here. So a little bit of my background, been in Rolla now 11 years, married, my wife's Tanya. We have 7 kids, all that have been through, all except for my oldest have been through the Rolla Public School System. So great kids. We've just been blessed. It's been a great experience here in Rolla since I've been here. When Tanya and I met, I had a son, she had a daughter. And that's kind of where we thought we were going to be at, and now 11 years later, we've added several more to it. So enjoy this community a lot. Enjoy interacting with this community. I'm going to back up a little bit and kind of talk about some of my background. So 17 years with O'Reilly Auto Parts. Started off with O'Reilly's just like you would at the Rolla store here, just selling parts over the counter. And then after a few years, I was asked to take a management role with another store about an hour away from there. Came from a great store manager, but the opportunity came up to take a store that was struggling, that needed some help, that needed to turn around. While I was in that store, that was Bolivar, that's where I grew up, was in Bolivar, Missouri. I was given opportunities within that company to do all kinds of things. O'Reilly is still in a major growth mode, but in those days, they were averaging a new store every day and a half.
Wow.
Which, if you think about that big picture, that's huge. And I was allowed to go out and be a part of a lot of that growth in a lot of different market areas. And that allowed me to learn a lot more things about the company, a lot more things about how we go to business or how they went to business in every aspect of that company. So long story short, they asked me to go take another store on. The last year that I was in Bolivar, we were store of the year for the company, which was pretty impressive. A company that size and growing that fast. Went to the store that they asked me to go manage and walked in as the youngest person in the store. Store manager that was there really didn't know I was coming to be the store manager. And like I said, all my employees were older than me. But we had a great team. We had great people. They just needed a little bit of leadership, needed a little bit of love, a little bit of direction. Long story short, that store, a year and a half later, was store of the year for the company again.
Wow.
So, and then the next 2 years that I was there, we were in the top 3 stores in the company. So from there, they asked me to go to Springfield, which is the corporate office, and start developing part of the marketing programs for the company. So developed the wholesale marketing programs for the company, then part of the retail marketing programs for the company, and then all of the event marketing and motorsports and that type of stuff. Through all those processes, I was always put within that company in leadership roles, management roles, leadership roles, and then also put in opportunities to be on committees that set direction company-wide. So just a lot of blessed opportunities within O'Reilly Auto Parts through all 17 years. And it let me work with budgets that were in the millions, single millions, and then budgets that were in the hundreds of millions, depending on what we were, depending on what committee I was sitting on, what opportunities we were looking at. So it was great opportunities. It was learning experiences. I learned a lot from the O'Reilly family themselves, and a lot of invaluable things from people coming up through the company. So a lot of background from that side. Through those experiences as well, I was also, the store that they asked me to take was El Dorado Springs, Missouri. I was in that community for about 6 months, asked to join the Chamber of Commerce, asked to be a board member on the Chamber of Commerce, and then asked to be the president of the Chamber of Commerce. So I held that position while there, and then time after that, spent a lot of time over in Lebanon, Missouri, running the racetrack over there. Again, the motorsports background that last 8 years that I was with O'Reilly's. The only reason I left O'Reilly's is just the fact that I was on the road the last 2 years, 40-some weeks a year. And, just trying to be a dad and trying to spend a little bit more time at home, trying to be a son to my mom and dad at that time, and my younger brother that had been in a car accident. He was a quadriplegic, so spending some more time with him as well. So got heavily involved in the Lebanon community, and kind of the same thing there. They asked me to be on the board of the Chamber of Commerce, and then they asked me to be president of the Chamber of Commerce. So I was president of the Chamber of Commerce in Lebanon.
Oh my gosh.
As well, before I come over this direction. And when I was in Lebanon, that's when I met my wife. She was the sales manager for the Results Radio here in town group, and she came over to try to sell me radio for the racetrack one day, and that turned into 10 years of marriage and kids and all those amazing things, and that's what brought me to Rolla. So here in this community, been involved in a lot of different organizations. I love anything to do with kids. I love anything to do with supporting our military, supporting our active duty, supporting our soldiers, supporting our veterans. And the military side kind of came in Lebanon. If you grew up in Bolivar, Missouri, there is no military anything there. I mean, not even ROTC, nothing along those lines. You get into Lebanon because of their close proximity to Fort Leonard Wood, just like we have here. And there's great support for the military there, a lot of support within that community. And I kind of got pulled into that and got to do a lot of things from that side with Fort Leonard Wood, and I've carried those on as I've come over here. So love to do anything with kids. I coach basketball, coach football, coach soccer, coach wrestling. I'm out in the community every day. I'm out around people, which is a strong player as far as city council, as far as being mayor pro tem, and as far as the opportunities looking at mayor, because I'm interacting every day, all day long with people. Beyond that, several different groups in the Rolla area that I'm on the board of. The Heroes Marathon, which is a marathon that is a yearly piece that runs Salem to Rolla every year, but gives back to so many different military organizations throughout the year. I'm a board member there. The Sustainable Ozarks Partnership, which is another group that is really there to help with the sustainability of Fort Leonard Wood. Fort Leonard Wood is number one. Again, we want to support our soldiers. We want to support our vets, but that is a driving force for all of the economies around Fort Leonard Wood as well. So it's trying to help with sustainability on that side. The Association of the United States Army Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri chapter, I was a board member with them for several years, president of that chapter. While I was on the board, we won Chapter of the Year worldwide 3 different times, which was amazing. And it shows the support this community has for our soldiers and those things that are going on there. Last year I was blessed to win the Ed Owsley Award, which is the most prestigious award within that chapter, and was blessed to win that. And then in a whole lot of other things, Chair of Phelps of the Fort, so many different boards and and committees and different things that I've been blessed to be a part of within the Rolla community through the years. But what it does is it plugs me in. It keeps me plugged in. Doing a lot of things with our Downtown Business Association, doing things through the Chamber of Commerce. We've got such a strong chamber here that interacts within our community incredibly, and I've been blessed to do a lot of things within those areas as well. So just between my wife and I, we go hard. We're both CASAs, court-appointed special advocates. Mm-hmm. So we are there for the kids that are in the system within this area, and been blessed to get to represent quite a few kids in this area through the court system as their voice, as they're trying to deal with things that were none of their doing, but make sure that the courts and just make sure that things are looking upon fairly. So love to do everything on that. We're also foster parents as well, so I'm also on the board of the Central Missouri Foster Care Association as well. So that's another great group that is in 17 counties, I believe, in Southwest Missouri that looks out for kids as well. So I don't want to bore you to death with all that stuff, but it's just, it lets you know the breadth of Tanya and myself, yeah, and what we try to support in the community.
Right, and you touched on it just a bit in that, but you're in city government right now. You're on the city council currently.
Yes, sir.
Has it been 3 years? How?
So Mayor Magnets, Lou came to me. I was actually emceeing the Memorial Day ceremony at Veterans Memorial Park, and he came to me after that ceremony and said, "Hey, you got a minute to talk?" And I said, "Sure." So he said, "I need you." And I said, "What do you need me for?" And our city council member for our ward at that time had some health issues, and she couldn't finish her term on the city council, and that was Memorial Day. So he said, I need somebody just to finish out the term. Her term is up in April. If you could sit in and help us help represent your ward, I would love that. And Colin, politics were never a dream, never would have been a thought. But I like people, and I like interacting with people. And so I thought about it for a little while, talked to Tanya about it. And long story short, got back to Lou, and I'd had conversations with John and several of the city council members as far as that goes through that time, and wound up going ahead and jumping on that opportunity, and enjoyed it. Had a good time with it. Really thought, in the beginning that when April got here, somebody else was going to run for that position, and that would be great, and they could step in and take it and run. Well, the more I did it, the more I liked it. I wound up running unopposed for the position, and been on city council ever since then. So I guess I was on city council from June to April, I believe. So when I officially got elected that next April, then I was unanimously voted to be mayor pro tem. So both of the last two sessions have been the same way. I've been elected and unanimously voted to be mayor pro tem. So I've been in that position now for the last 2 years.
Nice. And for the folks tuning in, Mayor Pro Tem fills in for the mayor when he's absent from meetings and other kinds of stuff.
Yes, sir. So Mayor Lou is so between city council and being the mayor position, he's right at 31 years. So incredible. You just don't see that in any community. Between he and John Butts, John had almost 29 years, I believe. Lou's almost 31 years. That is unheard of within a community. So that says a lot about our community. It says a lot about them as leaders through that time frame. But Lou's real job wasn't in Rolla. A lot of travel all over the country, and then he's had some other opportunities to deal with his wife with some health issues lately and that type of stuff. So I've been probably a very active mayor pro tem. I guess is the best way to put it, but a lot of interaction, a lot of conversations with Lou, being on the same page, making sure we're covering what needs to be covered together. But it's been probably more than the normal mayor pro tem would be in the last year or so, but that's okay. Lou had things that he needed taken care of, and like I said, his input, I was always listening, so we're there.
Sure. So speaking to that about Mayor Lou, what is something that he has, in your view, done well that, if elected, you'd like to continue or build off of? And then on the flip side, what are some things that, if you were elected, you might want to do differently than him?
So again, speaking to 31 years, you don't sit in that room for 31 years if you're not doing things fairly well. You think about the things the country's been through with the recession, with COVID, with different opportunities along those lines, where a lot of other cities struggled through a lot of ups and downs, through industry, through here Fort Leonard Wood is such a big driver as far as this goes, and there's been some roller coaster rides at Fort Leonard Wood through the years as well. So to be able to hold the city steady, to be able to not have to have any big tax hikes, to be able to not lay off any city employees through that entire 31 years, that's pretty incredible. To be able to, like I said, to be reelected, whether it's on city council or whether it's in the mayoral position, that kind of tells you what this community has thought of both John and Lou through those years. So those are all positives. To say anything negative, I don't have anything hardcore there. I think John and sit down through the conversations with those guys, with Lou, with John Butts, our city administrator that just retired last November, with Chief Fagan that's retiring in June, that will now have a new chief of police, with Rodney Bourne, that is retiring in the next couple months, that we'll have our new GM is actually in town now for RMU as well. It's taking in and listening and learning and making sure that we don't forget that experience and that past however many years it is over on that side. But every one of them will tell you, and every one of them have told me, Kevin, it's time for some new eyeballs. It's time for some new, introspective. It's time for somebody to come in and look at it from a little bit different direction, and they support that and they want that, and that's probably what I'm gonna bring to the table is learning from them for the last 3 or 4 years, but also because of the fact that I've been blessed to travel all over this country and interact with major companies and individuals all over the country and kind of get their perspective. I can bring a little bit of that to the table, and then also being so plugged in with this community and interacting so daily with this community, I get to hear some ideas from that side as well.
Yeah. And now in your time on the council, you've seen it change quite a bit in the past couple of years, both the faces that are on it, and then also sometimes you could say the priorities or kind of the views on the council. So how do you feel about the direction of the city council as it's moving now, and your own ability to work with them, being on the council and then as mayor, how you would?
So again, when Lou asked me to come in and be on the council, I just walked into what was there, right? So one thing about Rolla is it's set up. You won't find a setup like this in any other city in the state of Missouri. 12 city council members is not the norm. That's about double, honestly, what we would normally have. So that gives us the ability to, there's positives and negatives to that. You get all kinds of different introspectives and different opportunities that can come up within a city council meeting, or that come up throughout the city. It gives you a little more power too, depending on how the pieces, how the votes, or what those thought processes are. This last city council, and I think that's what you're asking about, has been probably the most in line with each other. There's, not everybody agrees, but that's how it's supposed to be. I mean, everybody gets their opinion. Everybody gets their thought process. Everybody gets to hear what they hear from their constituents, from people in the community. The secret is sorting through that and understanding we have to stay in our lane, and we have to do what's best for the community as a whole. You're going to get some, and I don't want this to go wrong, but you're going to get some ideas that come in outside of that lane from either side.
Yeah.
And that's life. That's if we were all the same thing, it'd be a pretty boring deal, and you wouldn't need one city council member, and you probably wouldn't need a mayor as far as that goes. So it's great to have that input. But one thing I did this year, and this is not because of me, but the last election in April, the next day I texted every one of the new city council members, and within a couple weeks, all of them but one, I took them to lunch, and I just sat down and kind of said, hey, here's the key things we're looking at right now. Here's kind of the lane, that we need to be in as city administration, and here's a direction to kind of look at. I said, this doesn't mean this is set in stone, but I just want you to kind of understand how city government works, because I know I didn't have a clue how city government worked when I came in, and a lot of these guys, they deserve so much respect. It's not like we have city council members beating at the doors wanting to be the next city council member. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's not. You don't do it for the money. It's not all going to be enjoyable. You're going to get some pretty negative conversations at times. It's you raise your hand because you care, and maybe because you saw something you want to change, and that's a lot of times what it is a new city council person may see something they want to change and they want to make a difference, whatever that difference may be, but they don't have any idea, and they probably shouldn't have any idea what it takes to make some of those changes happen, or what it took to get where we're at, or what it takes to go a different direction. So it's not an easy position, and like I said, it's not a position you take because you're going to get paid for it, because it basically amounts to nothing as far as what pay is. But it's just trying to lay the a roadmap and say, okay, here's our responsibilities, here's what we need to look at. And then you kind of go from there.
Yeah. Now, in your time on the council, is there any particular ordinance that you passed or action that the council took that you are especially proud of?
So, when I get these questions about I or me, with Kevin, it's very, very seldom about I or me, because we're not put there for an I or me. We're put there for the city. We're put there to say we need to make the best decisions for the city going forward. Most of those aren't going to be very glamorous. Most of those aren't going to be, anything that you're going to hang your hat on for the rest of your career or the rest of your life.
Right.
That type of stuff. Colin, you're a pup, and I am so I'm so impressed by you at your age. Number one, what you're doing in school, but number two, the interest that you have in local politics. But I'm not a pup anymore. I'm getting older. I'm not building resumes anymore. I've been blessed to get to do a lot of different things throughout my life, and people have given me a lot of different opportunities. So for me, it's just looking at, I guess what I'm most proud of is being consistent and staying in that lane and helping our city and helping our city council stay in that lane as well, and supporting our department directors. We've so much of what goes on, when you talk to people in the city, they're like, well, you need to make a difference here, and you need to make a difference here, and you need to make a difference here. Well, when you really sit down and talk to them about what make a difference means, we've got people within the city, really good people within the city, that more are the drive. They're the guys that get it done every day. We may have some ideas, but it's not our job to get down in the weeds. It's our job to help give the people within this city that work for this city the tools to get things done, and the tools that our constituents want to see.
Right on. For those just tuning in, we are talking to Kevin Greven, candidate for Mayor of Rolla here on KMNR. Don't go anywhere, because we've got plenty more questions. If you have anything you'd like to ask the candidate, please text into 504-656-6735. Let's dive now into some more specific kinds of policy type questions. And first up is the center. I'm not going to re-explain to everyone what the problem with the center is. I do it every week, but long story short, the swimming pool especially has been quite a financial burden on the city, and we're approaching the point where we have to do something about it. So, in your view, what would your ideal solution to the situation of the swimming pool and the center at large look like? And especially, as a voter, we're talking about putting some kind of tax on the ballot potentially to fund those changes. So what would you want to see in order for some proposal to get your support?
Okay, so I'm gonna give you the same answer I gave you a second ago. As a short one, it's not what I want to see. It's what the people want to see. So let's back up a little bit. And I'm sure you've, through your radio shows on a weekly basis, have explained this before. But way before me, 25 years ago, when the natatorium or when the center was built, there was a thought process, and that I believe people thought that membership on a monthly basis would cover the cost of the center, which is not real. I mean, you can talk to any other city within the state of Missouri that has any building like that, any center like that, any YMCA like that, whatever you want to, and they don't cover themselves. It's just not real. They either have some other funding source within the city, or they've got a city tax, or a lot of them it's built in the Parks and Recs tax, that type of stuff. So those conversations were all had way before I ever moved here or had anything to do with that. So we know it's in the rearview mirror, but it's got to stay in the rearview mirror. That's not going to help us through what we have going on today. So the mayor, Lou, and Phelps Health have had conversations, as you know, to look at how can we partner? How can we look at opportunities here and do something that's good for Phelps Health and do something that's good for the city as well? So Phelps Health has basically taken over the non-natatorium side of the facility. They're going to offer the same programs that are there today, but they're going to beef that up as well and do some health and fitness type stuff within Phelps Health's sphere as well, and make sense for them, which is incredible. That's an incredible opportunity for the city, and that's an incredible opportunity for them as well. That leaves the natatorium side, as you brought up a minute ago. So what we've been looking at the last couple of weeks is Corrigan & Clark, which is a company that looks at opportunities like this, whether it's building new facilities or whether it's doing facility upgrades or rehabilitations like what we're going to have to look at on this side. And we've had different community groups or stakeholders come in and take a look at what's there on that half today and say, we'd love to see this, or we'd love to see this, or we'd love to see this. Well, now Corrigan & Clark is going to take all that input, and they're going to come up with three or four different products for us to look at to say, okay, this is what the wet side and the natatorium side of the center can look like if we go hardcore pool, if we go hardcore swimming, if we go hardcore water on that side. To the total extreme, this is what it can look like if we don't do any pool. And then here's something in the middle that can play out on both sides. So the real key to this is getting the input from the people in the city, what they want. But it's not just the input, it's also getting the input to say, this is what we'd pay for. Because whatever we're going to have to do, we're going to have to spend millions to get it in shape and to make it what people want to have. So there's two key factors here. What do you want to see, and what do you want to support financially?
Right.
So that's the point we're at now, and that's the point that it's going to start coming back to the general population here before long, to where they come back with those renderings and say, okay, based on the input we've got up to this point, here's a spectrum of what it can be, but the city's going to turn around and ask, okay, what will you support, if any of these? If they'll support any of these at all. I feel we're going to have to support something because of the Phelps Health opportunity. They've put skin in the game hardcore, and this is. I said that the other night in City Council, and I don't want to say it wrong, but we've been kicking this can down the road for a lot of years now. And as far as I'm concerned, we got one kick left.
Right.
And we need to decide what that kick is, and where it lands, but I don't plan on having to figure this out years and years and years down the road.
Yeah. And I guess what I'm getting, because I know that is, public opinion is going to, and the advice of the engineering firm is going to influence that a lot. But I want to get at, suppose that public opinion is pretty mixed, and that for every proposal you get some people that are strongly for and strongly against, and there's no clear consensus or anything. I want to see what would you apply in kind of your own thinking. Are you going to want to err on the side of what kind of proposal is going to save the taxpayers the most money? What kind of proposal is going to make the center the most accessible to people?
Well, Colin, it's going to be a ballot measure no matter what. So at the end of the day, it's not what Kevin thinks. It's what the general public says when it goes to ballot. So either they're going to support it or they're not going to support it. Since I've been here, I've heard a whole lot of, the city council isn't doing this right towards the center. The city council isn't doing that right towards the center. Mm-hmm. This gives the general public the word. They get the last word. It's going to go to ballot, and they're going to make the vote on their side. And whatever they decide to do, we as a city are going to do everything possible to make that happen.
All right. Let's move on now to the issue of homelessness. Rolla is not unique in this problem, and it's not the kind of thing that I'm expecting you to be able to solve right here on the radio, but addressing homelessness has different meanings to different people. So in terms of Rolla, what does addressing homelessness mean to you, and what are some measures from the city that you would support to do that?
So you said it, you did a great job of saying it there. Homelessness is not a Rolla thing. It's every city, Rolla's size or larger, in the United States. It's everywhere, and it's not going away. There are so many different opportunities and problems that lead to that, to being unhomed, unhoused. I think is it.
Unhoused is a term some people use.
Yep. So if you look at Rolla, you've got the mission here, you got the VA clinic here, you've got several different entities that try to support and try to help people through the opportunities that got them to where they're at. There's 7 or 8 different contributing factors that can lead to the homeless population being here. Either they're looking for help, or they've landed here on some way, shape, or form. There's 115 to 120 families within Rolla Public Schools that, by the government definition, are homeless as well. Wow. So, and a lot of people don't realize that. Our Rolla Public School system is so incredible in the support they give within this community, and the stories that you don't hear, for the way they try to take care of the kids and the way they try to do things along that side. So, the problem is nationwide. The problem is everywhere. If you call other cities and you talk to others in communities, and I have done that, nobody's figured out the rhyme or reason. Well, nobody's figured out the riddle yet to fix it.
Yeah, there's no silver bullet riddle.
Yep. So, but the city has not ever. The city has to be careful, but I believe the city should at least sit at the table and listen, and pull all these different opportunities in, and pull all these different factions in, and really understand where this is coming from, totally what's causing it, what we're doing as a community. Raleigh doesn't do a great job of telling its story. There are so many incredible things going on in this city, from the things that Felt Health does, to the things that S&T does, to the things that the city does, to the things that our small business, different small business entities do, to our nonprofits, it's incredible the amount of love and support and driving forces within this city. But I don't know, at least I haven't been involved yet in any group that sat down and pulled those 7 or 8 different factions together, and see if together we can come up with some kind of game plan. What's tough is, to say that we're going to come up with the answer when nobody else does. I mean, it's not realistic. But we may come up with a better answer for Rolla. I get a lot of people that want to throw ideas at me that come from Springfield or come from Columbia or come from big cities, and their city government doesn't work the same as our city government.
Mm-hmm.
Their funding doesn't work the same as far as the state level or the federal level. The programs that they can offer don't work the same. So it's trying to figure out what our niche is or what our niche can be and try to go forward from there.
Yeah, and I don't want to pin you down to, I'm not trying to lock you into any specific policy positions on this, but, you know, there are avenues that the city can kind of more directly take to help address things like this, whether that's zoning laws and trying to encourage more affordable housing developments. I know many communities have incorporated more kind of mental health or crisis management stuff into their police departments to help mitigate that. So non-specifically, are those kinds of city-level policy changes the sorts of things that you would be open to?
So I'd definitely be open to talk about any of those. You know, you talked about the mental health and the crisis management opportunities. I think those are being offered within the community now, but it's right back to pulling people together. I don't know if and I'm not saying they haven't. I'm just saying I don't know if the police department has sat down and say, okay, this is what Compass Health offers, and this is what Four Rivers offers, and this is what Phelps Health offers, and this is what the VA offers. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And trying to actually pull it together and say, okay, can we develop something that looks more like a program out of what the community is already doing, and then grow it from there. So, I'm not big on hypotheticals, Colin, because those can be so many different ways. But if we can pull entities together and come up with some factual opportunities, let's do that.
Okay. And you did mention the mission, and we had someone text in asking about that. If I recall, last year or late 2024, the last time the mission kind of got in the crosshairs of city government, so to speak, you were sort of a voice in support of the mission. If you could speak on that, or
sure.
So
within that opportunity, there was a lot going on at that time within the mission. There was talks of lawsuits. There was talks of a lot of different things, and that vote that you're talking about that night, there was an opportunity that night to. A lot of the general public thought there was an opportunity that night to shut down the mission, depending on how that vote went, which that is probably the farthest from the truth. Depending on how that vote went that night, the mission had their attorneys ready to file a suit, follow up with opportunities to really tie the city up and tie themselves up and look at other opportunities there to not leave conversation open. If you look at, and I can't talk that strong about some of this because it's still litigation out
Sure.
there and it involves the city. But what that vote about for me was to leave conversations open, to leave opportunities open, to try to move things in a direction that was going to be good for everybody. But so many people thought if that vote went a certain way that night, the mission was shut down, and that was never going to happen.
Okay. Gotcha. We'll say it's about 4:40. We're going to take a quick break, play some Science in the Sea, but don't go anywhere because we'll be back on with Kevin Greven in just a couple minutes. Don't go away.
Exploring Science in the Sea. The Japanese spider crab is harmless to people, but it might not look that way if you happen across it at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. It can span 12 feet, the largest known crab on the planet. The crab's hard body is typically about a foot long, and the crab weighs 35 or 40 pounds. It has 10 legs. 8 of them are for walking along rocky ocean bottoms. The other 2 hold powerful claws. The claw legs are longer than the walking legs on males, but shorter on females. Japanese spider crabs spawn in fairly warm, shallow waters, primarily off the Pacific coast of Japan. Juveniles are pretty small. As they reach adulthood, though, they grow to giant proportions, and they move to deeper waters, generally a few hundred feet to 1,000 feet or deeper. The crabs can't swim. Instead, they scuttle along the bottom looking for food. They nab small fish and crack open clams. They also scavenge for dead animals and scrape algae off the rocks. Because of their size and hard shells, the crabs face few threats, mainly from fishers, because they're considered a delicacy in parts of Japan. And they're well disguised. Their mottled, spiny appearance blends into the background. Just to be safe, though, juveniles sometimes disguise themselves. They pluck bits of kelp, sponges, or other organisms. They chew on them for a little while, then stick them on their shells. That helps keep these imposing but harmless creatures safe at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. Science in the Sea is available as a weekly podcast at scienceinthesea.org. I'm Holly Brawley.
Thanks, Holly. You're listening to The Weather Report, and we are back with mayoral candidate Kevin Greven, running for mayor of Rolla. Getting towards the end of the show. Let's turn up the heat a little bit. Where to start? Someone got a fun text in. This person is asking about your connection to investment realty. And I don't know what they mean about that.
I don't have a clue either.
Ask Kevin about his connection to investment realty, if he has any plans to hold them accountable for their terrible practices, monopolizing rental. I'll take it more broadly, because as a student, I do hear a lot of, complaint. Everyone has a story about investment, or more broadly, just subpar rentals. And we do have a rental market that is pretty dominated by one company. So in your eyes, is there anything the city can do to foster some more competition in the rental market, improve the quality of rentals for folks?
So it's not the city's. The city can't have a position to try to run businesses out or bring new businesses back in. That's not our lane. Just like we talked about in the beginning. I don't know. About 65% of the houses in Rolla are rentals. Mm-hmm. So there's a large rental market here. Part of that is driven by S&T for sure. Part of that is driven by the housing market as it exists for sure. As far as just straight up complaints about investment realty, I don't hear those. I mean, that you caught me off guard a little bit as far as what that might be, but it's not. Like I said, that's to control. That's to say that this business can come in town and this business can't do as much business in town. We don't, as a city, we don't have the right to do that. As a city, that's not what we're here for, and that's not what we want to do.
Well, you say we can impose some standards on properties generally. We have nuisances. You can't have, there's limits on grass. You can't have, decaying animals in your yard, things like that.
Sure.
And so I could argue the city has that route to regulate or hold it more accountable. Not any one company specifically, but renters in general, kind of setting more stringent standards for, because the texter talks things about maintenance, refusing to complete maintenance requests, mitigating mold, things like that the city arguably does have the authority to have more of a role in. Okay.
Well, like I said, it's not something that's been brought to city council. It's not something that's been brought to my attention. And I don't know if it's something that they've taken to like the Better Business Bureau or something along those lines that really has a voice in opportunities like that. Mm-hmm. But if it's out there and we need to talk about it, let's talk about it. It's just not you caught me off guard because that's not a topic I've ever had come up.
Alrighty. Now you and your opponent, Lister, have run very positive campaigns thus far, and that's been good. I don't want to jeopardize that.
Yeah.
However, you are running against him, and so obviously there are some reasons why you would want people to vote for you instead of for him. And I asked him about this last week, and so I'll get you'll have the chance to address it as well. But when I asked him similarly, why should people back you over Kevin? The thing he talked about was that he's about to retire, and his kids are grown and out of the house. He has the time and the bandwidth to be a full-time mayor, as he puts it, and really sink the time into the role to succeed at it. And I mean, like I talked about at the beginning, you have a whole lot going on. You've got a big family, you're fingers in every pie, and so guess what is your response to that criticism, or what would you say to folks who do feel like that's kind of an advantage your opponent has over you?
I would say it's 100% the other way, because being so involved in this community gives me direct input all the time. It gives me opportunities to interact with our community all the time. So the things that I do, which are marketing and advertising and sales type stuff, are all on the laptop, on the phone. I can set my own hours, basically, is what I'm saying. So the things I can do, work doesn't really control what I would do. Very seldom would ever control what I do from a mayoral standpoint. Having kids, having a family, all that does is make you that much closer to your community. Being on all the different boards, being on a piece of so many different things between both my wife and myself, that I can't imagine that taking away from being a mayor. That just adds to it even more, because you're directly or indirectly interacting with community constantly.
Yeah, that's fair, because I mean, I think most people don't know a whole lot about the role of mayor in general, but I mean, outside of city council meetings, a lot of it is just being around and being at stuff, essentially.
It's listening. Lister and I have had a lot of communication to the last 2 or 3 years about city council positions and the role of city council and the role of a mayor and those opportunities. And it all starts with listening. It all starts with hearing what's going on. Well, if you're out there in the middle of it, all day long and most evenings, you're going to hear what's going on. And if you're in the RREC meeting this morning and looking at economic development and those things, you're going to hear what's going on. If you're, if you're in meetings multiple times a week, or if you're working with kids multiple times a week, or if you're working with the military or veterans multiple times a week, how better of an opportunity can you have, because you're right there with them all the time.
Fair enough. And so now, when I asked Lister about that, I had him couch his criticism in the form of a compliment sandwich about you, and so I'm going to have you do the same thing. So share something that you like about your opponent that you think would be a good reason for him to be mayor. And then you'll give a reason why you think people should vote for you instead of him. And then you'll finish it off with one more nice thing to say about Lister. That sounds fair?
Sure. So Lister is a great guy. I mean, straight up. If you spend any time around Lister, he wants to make you smile. He wants to make you happy. He wants to please. And sorry, I'm turning and talking to you at the same time. So and that's just who he is, and it's a great quality that he possesses. As far as the difference, and I think that's what you're asking about.
Yeah.
It's back to the leadership. It's back to every role that I have had in the last 25 to 30 years, in every community I've been in every entity I've been a part of. I've asked to manage and lead everywhere I've been. And I think you just can't get around that. You can't get past that, and you just can't make that up. I mean, it's natural. It's where I've asked to be. It's where I love to be. I love people. I love interacting with people. I love working with people. I love giving people credit for what they're doing. I love giving them a pat on the back. It very seldom ever has to be Kevin's idea. but it has to be the right idea. And that's the way I like to look at things, is putting teams together, putting the right people in the room, putting the people in the room that have hopefully a passion or a desire to make things better, to grow things, and probably have some kind of background or some kind of experience to do that. And that's what I've done for a long time. Back in the O'Reilly days, every situation they put me in front of was either not positive or a revolving door, and every one of those changed. And that's not because of me directly. That's because of coming in and leading, and a lot of times good people. They just need a little love, a little leadership, and a little bit of direction. And that I enjoy doing that. I don't plan on ever being a politician. I don't think this opportunity is of a politician. But I love being a people person. We don't need politics in Rolla. We're a town of 20,000 people. We don't need any politics. What we need is somebody to come in and help pull the community together, more so than what it may be, help put some of the right people at the table in the right opportunities, and help give more vision to what's coming up in the next 20 years.
Right on. Oh, and then cap it off with one last nice thing as the other end of the sandwich.
And I can't say anything. I guess the nicest thing I can say is I can't say anything negative about Lister at all. He is just, I enjoy my time with Lister. I enjoy having lunch with Lister. I enjoy running into Lister out on the street. I enjoy, seeing, he called me last year and asked me to jump in the Optimus dunk tank for Summerfest. And he knows I would do that any day of the week, today, tomorrow, or next year, because he's a good guy and he'd do the same thing for me. So I think the most positive thing I can say is I don't have anything negative to say.
Right on. In prepping for this show, and I do think it's partly a factor of just the kind of audience for this show, but I have had several people elevate the concerns of, you could say, excessive religious influence within government. And I think that a lot of the more controversial things that council has done or tried to do in the past few years were not fully, but also kind of have those religious undertones to them. And there are some folks that have concerns just about that in general. So what would you say about that?
Give me a for instance there.
The council didn't approve it ultimately, but the Sanctuary City for the Unborn ordinance, a lot of the advocacy for that came from religious grounds. It wasn't all of it, but that definitely was a factor.
Sure.
So
that one, for instance, wasn't in our lane. I talked about that lane when we first started talking. There is, in my mind, there is nothing about that opportunity as it was presented that fits the lane of city council, that fits the lane of city government. And ultimately that's why we went the direction we went, I believe.
Mm-hmm. So speaking to, not just religiosity, but kind of personal morals and views in general, because there are a lot of moral type issues that are in the city's purview. How do we deal with homeless people, or how do we deal with homelessness, I should say? How do we deal with policing, etc.? And so where do you stand with that, with balancing your public obligations and public opinion with your own personal moral compass and outlook on these kinds of things?
So it's right back to kind of, I think, what I said earlier, but it's always listening. It's always getting input. It's always listening to what the city council members have to say. It's listening to what the general public has to say. I'm a strong Christian. I believe in God, and God directs me every day. But within that, you still listen to the general public, and honestly, you got to believe that for the most part, they're following their God as well, or they're following their beliefs, they're following their moral compass. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I don't know that I've seen something. Well, I guess that would be a for instance that totally swerved to the right or swerved to the left of kind of what that fits anyway. I'm not big on hypotheticals because you throw a hypothetical out there that could have 100 different variables, and it's you're sitting here on a recorded show, and 2 years down the line, something slightly comparable could be taken away out of context.
Sure.
When you talk about that stuff. So,
yeah, and I don't get when because a lot of these questions are, what are you going to do in office? Or they're kind of hypothetical by nature. And so, more generally trying to get a sense of what your approach to these kinds of problems is. Not so much where are you going to where would you fall, where would you wind up voting, but like what sorts of factors are you going to value? You've put quite an emphasis on hearing from the public and getting public opinion on that.
So again, we have a lane, and we as a city, as a municipality, as a city government, as leaders in the city government, no matter what's going on, you stay in that lane. And I think for the most part, if those are your parameters, that's going to give you your idea, your answers most of the time. Does that? I don't know if I'm answering your question the way.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. So prioritizing the, I guess, norms of what the city has been involved with and can be involved with.
Yeah, what the city should be involved with. There's things that aren't city functions, that aren't city business, that government should never be involved in, and you got to stay out of those things. You got to let the general public handle those in their own household the way they see fit. And the government, we don't need more government restrictions. We don't need more, we don't need the government telling people what to do more than what we already have to do. We just need to do what we're doing today and do it right.
Great. My last, with the time we got, probably last substantial question, then we have a couple fun ones. So there's long been some tension between the university and at least some facets of the city, some residents of Rolla. And your own Ward 5 has been pretty strongly impacted by the growth of the university as well as of the hospital. I mean, entire neighborhoods have been sort of reshaped by that development. So to that end, there are some people who feel the city is sometimes putting the university's interests ahead of its own. What would you say to that? What should be done to ease those tensions and ensure that the development of the growth that's occurring is sort of to everyone's benefit?
So I said this earlier, I think we're not really good at telling our own story. We're not really good at talking about positives. We're not really good at talking about here's what's going on and why. And that's that's the city, honestly. That's S&T as well. That's Phelps Health as well. We're not, I don't want to say bragging, but I guess at the end of the day, it's communication.
Yeah.
It's transparency and it's communication. I don't think anybody is trying not to be transparent by any means, but sometimes you get so involved in what you're trying to accomplish that I think sometimes we forget to let the whole city know what you're trying to accomplish and let the whole city know what the why is for the for or whatever it is, along those lines. So I think that will do as much as anything is just communication. I think, there is, S&T is not trying to take over the city. Phelps Health is not trying to take over the city, but they're great. They're economic drivers, and they're moral drivers, and the things they do for the city of Rolla are big. For the things they do for our community are big. The things they do for our outlying communities that do business in Rolla are big. So they need to be respected. But I think there just needs to be more communication there, so other people that might have those feelings, and I'd love, I'd love to hear what some of those are, just to understand, not from you, but in general, from the general public, just to understand how we got there. But I think a lot of it is just communication.
Okay, and so as the mayor, what sorts of steps could you take to improve that communication?
So Keith and I, city administrator, have had a couple conversations. It's not in the budget today. but something along the lines of a communication director for the city itself. I think there are so many different opportunities out there talking about the center, talking about the comp plan, talking about so many different things within the city that we've got great department heads, we've got great department directors and managers that are doing really good things, and we've got great involvement with the Downtown Business Association, with with PhilShelp, with S&T, with MoSci, with Brewer Science, with so many, and I can go on.
Yeah.
I hate naming names because I'll miss somebody, and then I feel like an idiot for missing somebody. But we're if we could come up with a communication director type position that could tie those pieces together and help portray that story, help put that story out, I think that would help a lot of it from that side.
Right on. Couple fun ones before we wrap up. Rolla has a lot of festivals and celebrations, things like St. Pat's, which we just celebrated or survived, depending on your point of view. Celebration Nations, things like that. Which one is your favorite?
You sound like my kids. My kids are always wanting a favorite. and there's so much that we do that I love. I love anything to do with our military, anything to do with our veterans, anything to do with our active duty. I love anything to do with our kids. And so many of them have one or two of those aspects. And when I think of I'm old, so when I think of S&T, I think they're kids too. So, there's not probably. So when I think about my kids right now, just last week or the week before, they're asking me, Dad, when is Summerfest? Dad, when is the Lions Club Carnival? And Dad, when is the fair? So if I'm going to base it on I love doing fun things with my kids, it's probably going to be one of those three, because those are three big highlights for them through the summertime.
Right on. And then what is one surprising or unexpected hobby or interest of yours that people would not guess by looking at you?
Wow. Guess by looking at me. So it depends if anybody knows about my background. Back to O'Reilly's again. A lot of time in motorsports, a lot of time with NASCAR, a lot of good friends within that realm. Carl Edwards, which is a Missouri boy from Columbia, Missouri, won a lot of NASCAR races. Carl's a good friend of mine. Jimmy McMurray is another Missouri boy. Kenny Schrader, the Wallace boys. So maybe if you don't know much about my background, that would be something that might, Kenny Wallace, Rusty Wallace, Mike Wallace, all NASCAR drivers did big things in NASCAR. They actually lived in Rolla, Missouri.
Oh, really?
Back when I think Kenny told me he was like 3 or 4 at the time back then. So there's cool ties to those guys and back here. So maybe something along those lines. I don't know that I'm all that interesting across the board. So, but something like that maybe people just don't know.
Will you commit to, if elected, building the Rolla Speedway?
I've had a couple conversations through the years. People have asked me to give some input and some thoughts on that side. I'm not going to commit to anything, but if there's a way that I could help them, and if it was something that was supported, and there's a way that I could help them tie things together, sure, I'd definitely. It is a cool racetrack. The first or second time that I came to Rolla, I had heard some stories from the Wallace boys, so I went out there, jumped the fence, and got up in the grandstands and was videoing it.
Do we have a speedway? Am I?
Yeah, there is.
Oh, I'm just an idiot.
Never mind
then.
You're okay. At the fairgrounds, there is. So I'm FaceTiming Kenny Wallace and showing him, because he grew up here, being around there. So yeah, it was a really cool track back in the day.
I got you. Right on. Well, that's about time. Kevin, is there any last comments, anything the public needs to know about you, any priorities or issues that we did not cover that you feel voters should know?
No, Colin, you did a great job. I had a great time. Sorry, I got away from the mic there for a minute, but I had a great time. You did a great job with the show. And I know you're hitting it every week, but April 7th is coming up. Get out there and vote. We've got a lot of great city council candidates coming up. We've got school board, another a great school board race. There's 4 people actually running for 3 positions on the school board as well.